The war in Middle East, visa caps and immigration restrictions.
Bravo 205 here. How copy, over?
Looking at the world today, a lot of students are asking this question, that is studying abroad in 2026 a good decision? It feels like every door you are trying to open is being shut into your face. And because of this, a lot of students are confused, and the parents are saying, I am not sending my child abroad, not in this situation at all. And honestly, you're not wrong. Because at the end of the day, you're not thinking about the geopolitics. You're thinking about what might happen to my child. And no opportunity in the world is worth that risk. But let me ask you one thing. Is this situation really new? Or have we felt like this at different points in time? So here is a bit of a history lesson for you guys. Let's go back to 1945 to the bombings at Hiroshima and Nagasaki. At the end of the Second World War in 1945, 2 nuclear bombs were dropped by the US on the cities of Hiroshima and Nagasaki in Japan. This was one of the most devastating acts of war ever in the history of humankind. The world had just seen something unimaginable. And for a lot of people, it felt like it was going to be the end of the world. But the world reorganized, countries started working together, global institutions like United Nations were formed, and international collaboration actually increased. And Japan and the US are right now hand in glove with their economic activities. But let's get closer to where we are. In 2001, the infamous 9/11 attacks happened on the Twin Towers in the United States, in the financial capital of the world, New York. Overnight, everything changed. Air travel felt risky. US introduced stricter immigration systems like SEVIS. Security was increased and policies became harder. And there was real fear about moving across countries. But what happened? International students crossing borders doubled in the next decade. And while this was happening in 2008, we were hit by the global financial crisis. Everybody felt this is the end of their corporate world. The markets crashed, massive layoffs by companies across the world, and it felt like again there was no future. But that's not how it's played out. Universities adapted to the situation. New programs, new opportunities. Things didn't stop. They just took a different direction. And what happened? International mobility continued to grow almost at a rate of 10% per annum. And then something we all would remember. Most recently, the COVID-19 pandemic. The world literally stopped. We were locked in our homes, no flights, no visas, and for a moment it felt like the global education would freeze. But instead, education went digital and learning became even more global. And then what? India sent its highest number of students ever in 2023. So the pattern to crisis is actually the other way. At every crisis, the international mobility and the need to stand out has actually always increased. So the reaction to crisis has always been opposite of what we might think. Whenever a crisis hits, individuals spend more effort and time into upskilling themselves and distinguishing themselves to be at the top of the career ladder. And it's not that every 10-20 years something is being happening. And that's why things are easy to solve. The Cuban Missile Crisis, which almost got to a nuclear end in 1962, the fall of the Berlin Wall in 1989, and then the collapse of the Soviet Union. Human history has never, and not far away from home, we have fought countless battles on different borders ourselves as a nation. So war and crisis is part of human history almost along the last 1,000 years. But what has happened? Stronger diplomacy, more global cooperation, and student mobility has continued to rise across these moments of crisis. And here is something that you should know even more important. The world today is actually facing a labor shortage. Countries like United States, Japan, Germany, and most of Europe are running out of working age population. Their economies are dependent on young talent, and India is the biggest supplier with its demographic dividend. So yes, today's situation might feel uncertain, but it's just another point in the long timeline of humankind where crisis persists. And I'll tell you one thing that gets you through this crisis and not just survive but come at the top of it are the ones who look at the long term. Don't live in the crisis today. Live in the opportunity coming in the future because of this crisis. So focus on the long term and don't get deterred by the short term hiccups. And still, I understand your fear, it's valid, but we can't just sit back and do nothing. So if you take my advice, don't get bogged down by what's happening now. Look into the future and prepare for yourself for that opportunity. Every country is different, risks are different, the opportunities are also equally different. So when you are planning to study abroad in a scenario like this, so if you have to plan long term, then what are some of the key questions that you must answer for yourself to feel safe and plan for the future? Firstly, look at, is this country politically stable? And secondly, when they introduce policy changes, do they give time for those policy changes to be implemented? For example, in UK, policies are changing, but they give you a year to 2 years and in case 4 years of time and do not implement those policies retrospectively, making it a relatively safer choice when you're going. Does this country have strong universities and job pipelines? Of course, with industry, this answer will vary for country to country. And lastly, when you are picking a program, also do look for a plan B, that does it hold value if you come back, because if it does, then you always have a country welcoming of you where you can always resort to build your career. So my friends, crisis is not happening today. It is part of our lives. And so is growth and opportunity. So focus on the long term, stay safe, stay informed, and don't let your fear and panic stop you from being successful. But until then, it's me, Piyush Bhartia, your study abroad coach, and I will see you all in the next video. Subscribe to the channel, guys.